Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Bismillah, alhamdulillah, assalatu wassalam ala rasulillah wa ala alihi wa ashabihi ajma'in. Welcome everybody from around the world. My name is Bilal Abdul Kareem and this is the BAK show, wherein we discuss things which are important to you. Of course, I am your host, Bilal Abdul Kareem, and all right, just getting everything situated here. And we're happy to have everybody. We're broadcasting live on YouTube and also on X. If you believe that anybody could benefit from this, that we're getting ready to talk about, these topics, please do share a link with them. So let's get started. Okay, everybody. As most of you probably have heard by now, there was an attack at the general um, uh, security complex in Palmyra. There was an attack there. There were three U.S. Personnel which were killed, and three more are said to be critically injured. They were attacked by allegedly by a man named Tariq Sattouf, who comes from the countryside of Aleppo, and he is alleged to have been a member of ISIS, but he was also a part of the general security working in the area at that time. Um, the names of the U.S. personnel which were killed have not been released as of yet. They should be released at any time because they held them back for a 24-hour period so that their families, the U.S. personnel families, could be notified. Um, it reached all the way to the director of the Pentagon, Pete Hegseth, who made some comments about he's going to go after the perpetrators and such like that. Everything that you pretty much expected that he was going to say. Donald Trump also weighed in on it. So it was a big event to be sure. And I think that we need to discuss this issue because it's not clear a lot of the details. Like, for example, it was stated that he was a member of ISIS. All right. It was also stated by the Interior Ministry that they had some doubts about him and that he was going to be relieved from his position um, on Sunday, which is today. But unfortunately, the attack took place on Saturday. This is what was said. Now, the first issue that I want to examine here, let's look at it from a Syrian standpoint. From a Syrian standpoint, if we're looking at why should Syrians be happy that there are U.S. forces inside of Syria? U.S. forces inside of Syria have not been a force for good. They haven't been. And I think that we have to start to look at that. They haven't been a force for good inside of Syria. Syrians have been killed, they've been droned, they've been attacked, and we can't forget about the genocide that's taken place some kilometers away in another part of Ishan, which is the Palestinian territories. These things are not disconnected. This is from the same American entity. Anybody who says that we can separate them and that the Americans are a force for evil in Palestine, but they're a force for good in Syria, this is not the case. This is detached from reality. It's not for real. If we want to look at the situation from an American standpoint, yes, some of their personnel were killed, but they have to understand something, that the way Muslims see the American entity, they see them as supporters of Israel, supporters of those who are killing in droves and starving their brothers and sisters in the Palestinian territories. That's how Syrians see this issue. That's how people around the world see this issue. So I don't think that the Americans should be surprised when people are not happy with American presence. Let's talk about this individual, Tariq. We're going to, first of all, tell you that I have my doubts, serious doubts, whether he was ISIS. Serious doubts. From the people whom I've spoken to who know him, I don't see any indication that he was from ISIS. This is the first thing. And I would like to know how they knew he was from ISIS just an hour or two after the attack. This is strange, to say the least. I mean, they don't carry any ID cards, they don't wear any uniforms and all, and he worked for the security apparatus here in Syria. How did all of a sudden they know that, oh, this guy, he's from ISIS? If that was the case, how did he have access to the Americans at that time? If you suspected it, even if, okay, he's under investigation, you're not going to put him in areas which are sensitive while he's under investigation. This would be normal protocol. So I have my doubts, serious doubts, whether he is from ISIS. And we're going to talk more about that in the coming days. But I'd like to say to you, brothers and sisters, look, the reality is that the Americans have got to understand something, that whatever Ahmed al-Shara is telling them, people aren't happy with America, and they have a right not to be. When the entire planet is almost in unison, except for Israel and America, that there's a genocide taking place, why would people be surprised if people want to strike back at them? Now, I think, and Allah knows best, that because I am a journalist, I think it's very, very important that we stick to what we know. And I haven't seen any evidence to support that he was from ISIS. Why? Because he was from he was in the area where out in the desert they say that there are so many ISIS cells and such like that. Again, we haven't seen the proof of that. But anyway, before I'm going to jump to the conclusion and say, oh, ISIS, yeah, it was him. No, I think we're going to have to try to figure out what's the proof that he's from ISIS. And so far, I haven't seen any, and I'm not taking anybody's word for it. Full stop. I'm not taking America's word for it. I'm not taking the Syrian government's word for it. We operate on proofs of what we know. So I'm not going to jump to any conclusions here. I'm going to take your questions, but you will forgive me if I'm not just going to jump and I'm not just going to jump up and down and just say it was ISIS and ISIS is a bunch of dead enders. I don't really see any ISIS fighters around. I don't really see all of this big ISIS presence, and neither do any other Syrians. I don't know, maybe somebody's got some satellite tracking stuff and they see one or two under a rock somewhere. But as people, this ISIS presence is not here. I'm not going to tell you that this guy, this brother wasn't from ISIS, but I have no reason to believe that he was. And Allah knows best. Okay, Digital Resistance Group says, give this a like and a share. Yes, please do, brothers and sisters. Please do. Okay, now, there's a question here. Your last video was blocked. Why? I did an extensive interview with Dr. Hani Sabai, and he is an Islamic scholar, and we discussed many issues pertaining to here in Syria. The YouTube blocked the video because it was, and I quote, it had violent content. It was a conversation between myself and Dr. Hani Sabai. There was no footage that we added to it. None at all. Nothing that we discussed was about gore and stuff like that. It never existed. But the reality of the situation, I believe, is that there are people who don't want the Islamic side of these issues and how we judge who we should like and who we shouldn't like. Should we like Donald Trump based upon Quran and Sunnah? Should we like Ahmed Shara based upon Quran and Sunnah? I think people don't want that. So they contact YouTube and other platforms and tell them, hey, we don't like this video, get it off. Because there's a big difference between getting up there and myself as a journalist, and I might sit there and say, I don't like so-and-so. So-and-so is no good, and you shouldn't like him either because he did this and this and that. But then a scholar gets up there and says, according to the Quran and Sunnah, this person is this and this person is that, and he fell into this category because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says this, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said that, and the ijma' according to the ulama is this, and that is the hukm, that's the ruling. That's dangerous business because that's Islam. This is an Islamic country or a Muslim country, and we really, that's our salvation. Our enemies don't want us to get that salvation. So they fight against it, and they zapped our video for, violent content. I don't get it. We'll be posting it again. We're in the process of posting it again on another platform, and we will let you know the address, inshallah. Okay, next up. All right. Okay, Bilal, Salam Bilal, welcome. Salam wa barakatuh. I watched your stream with Sabai and wanted to ask why ISIS are considered Khawarij when back then they were declared Khawarij for making takfir on Jolani and his allies from the FSA. Well, that would have been a good question for Dr. Hani, but I think that just a little bit of the history of it, they were declared Khawarij not because of what they said about Jolani and his allies, but because of the takfir that they made on wide numbers of people. So it wasn't because they said that they were a normal mainstream Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah group, then they made takfir on Jolani and the FSA and khalas, that made them Khawarij. That wasn't really what happened. There was much more to it than that at that time. But at the end of the day, look, this is the way that I see it now. That happened a number of years ago. If you believe that they were Khawarij or believe that they were not Khawarij and that they were just misguided, however it goes, they're still Muslims and they're still subject to the rulings of Islam. So I'm not going to kind of go back into all of that because first of all, I think that that's the territory of Dr. Hani Sabai. But I think that looking forward, do I really see ISIS all in the cities? No. In the countrysides? No. Do they control any town centers? No. When was the last time that they pulled off an attack on civilians? I don't remember the last time that happened. And that's just real. Now, people can say what they want, but I don't remember the last time that there was an attack on civilian areas. Now, they're supposed to be living in the desert somewhere. I haven't seen any proof of that. And also the attacks that took place yesterday, that attack took place on other military personnel. That didn't happen at a shopping mall. It didn't happen, in the street or at a school or anything like that. So I'm not sure of how the Syrian people are benefiting from the presence of the Americans. I've yet to be shown any reason how Americans, the American presence benefits the Syrian people. Maybe you guys know something that I don't. All righty, next up, we've got Assalamu alaikum, Brother Bilal. May Allah protect you from evil. Oh, Ameen. I could really use those du'as. Okay, let's see what the next one is. Many Muslims don't seem to understand that once a foreign military has a military base in your country is occupied by that country. Now, we'd have to ask ourselves a question again. Let's go back into it. What are the Americans doing here exactly? You can't tell me that they're here to fight off ISIS when ISIS doesn't have a presence like that. I mean, look, I could understand if the town centers were about to be overrun, if there were huge numbers. By U.S. estimates, I watched one guy, I forgot what his name is, but he is an ex-special forces person, and he's got a YouTube channel and such like that. And he was stating that there are about 2,000 ISIS members moving around Syria. Do you really need a foreign military in your country? Because 2,000 cats, 2,000 dudes are you serious with that? And we're assuming that that's accurate. Let's say that it is. You need 2,000? I mean, you need an American military presence in Syria for that? Ahmed al-Shah's forces can't handle that? Come on, y'all. We need to understand what they're really doing here, because it can't be that they're here to fight to fight ISIS when we're only saying that there's 2,000 dudes. It can't be. And really, come on, guys. Let's get serious here. So that has to be looked at. And I don't know. I mean, the Syrian people have got to ask their leadership, help us to understand. We're not accusing you, but we're saying, help us to understand how we're benefiting. Now, it can't be because they're going to be mediators between two belligerents, which is Syria and Israel. Because number one, Syria is not a belligerent. Syria didn't attack Israel. Maybe some people felt that they should have retaliated, but that's neither here nor there. They didn't. So there's only one aggressor, and that aggressor is the same aggressor that is the recipient of the biggest recipient of U.S. Military aid, the biggest recipient of U.S. political cover, and that's Israel. Are you telling me the Americans can't control the Israelis, or they won't? Can't believe that the Americans have to be here to fight off the Israelis. Does anybody here believe that they're actually, if the Israelis come bring the helicopters and such like that, excuse me, the Americans, what are they going to do? Are they going to attack? Are they really? Anybody believe that? Absolutely not. I mean, their U.S. bases in Saudi Arabia, their U.S. bases, the biggest U.S. base in the Middle East is the Odeid military base in Qatar. When the Israelis came and attacked Hamas negotiators inside of Doha, the U.S. base was there. It didn't do them any good. So again, we have to ask ourselves, what the heck are the Americans doing here? Oh, and here's one person talking about that. Bilal, why are American forces even still in Syria? A year after Bashar fell, why wasn't the killing of Khalid Massoud by them a rallying cry for the people and government and U.S. military presence? Look, guys, let me give this to you straight, okay? Not gonna sugarcoat this, and it's probably gonna get me in trouble. But here is the reality. It's disappointing that the Mujahideen and those who helped them politically, those who helped the revolution in the various different ways, it's very disappointing that they are silent on these issues. Extremely disappointing. Why? Look, Syria can't be left in one man's hands. Full stop. I just said it. Syria has got to be a group project, not just one person who does whatever he wants to do and so on and so forth. These voices needed to have been raised even before that. The Americans have no legitimate reason to be here. We simply cannot legitimize the presence of the enemy. And I said America is the enemy of the Syrian people. I'm going to say it again. The Americans are the enemies of the Syrian people. You can't be the enemies carrying out a genocide in Gaza and the Palestinian territories and you paying for it. And then over here, you cool with the Muslims in Syria. Nah, brothers and sisters, it don't work like that. Doesn't work like that. The Americans are not the friends of the Syrian people. They aren't. And those other voices need to be heard. That doesn't necessarily say that somebody's got to get up and say, okay, Ahmed Shara is a bum. Ahmed Shara is this. Ahmed Shara should be doing that. And it doesn't mean that. What it does mean is to say, hey, all right, you the president, you the main guy. All right, I see that. I respect that. But also at the same time, we were born and bred from Quran and Sunnah to understand. And we're not only talking about the 13 years, but let's just talk about that. For the 13 years, from statements by Hayat Tahrir Sham, from Jabhat al-Nusra, Jabhat Fatih Sham, that indeed the Americans were the main troublemakers. So somehow we went from Americans being the troublemakers throughout the Middle East and for all of the Muslims. And then we turned out that our country after the revolution joined them. Now, I got to say it like this. If that's the case, all right, he's the president and you know more than we know, bet, I got that. I'm cool with that. But just let us in on it. You can't say for 13 years that they are the main ones who are causing the issues and this and that and so on and so forth. And then say, all right, everybody, all right, we with them. We over here now. Except that people are going to be like, what the heck is going on? That's what I'm saying. And I think that other voices need to be saying that also. Why? So that we can come to an understanding. Because if the Americans all of a sudden are cool, let me know why. And then I'll support them. Maybe I'll support them too. But just to say that, all right, guys, we should all be opposing these people because of what they're doing in the Palestinian territories, because of what they're doing in the West Bank, because of what they're doing to arming and so on the Israelis, because of the 20-year war in Afghanistan, and because of so on and so forth. And it's a long list, that's why we should be against them. But then, without any justification whatsoever, all of a sudden say, hey, man, me and him over there, that's Donald Trump, we cool. What's wrong with you? Nah, I'm not there. I'm not there. And I don't think anybody else should be there either. I think that it is a legitimate thing that we could say that we want to question our leaders. That doesn't mean that the leaders are bad. It doesn't mean that the leaders are kuffar. It doesn't mean that the leaders are this and that. It only means that the companions of the Prophet ﷺ used to question Abu Bakr. You're going to fight these people they didn't want to pay the zakat. What's up with that? They would question him. Is Ahmed Shara better than Abu Bakr? No. Even he himself would say, I'm not better than Abu Bakr as-Siddiq radiallahu anhu. Umar ibn al-Khattab. Even his decisions were questioned. Now, question doesn't mean that you're no good, but it means, hey, look, this is a group thing here. I'm here in Syria, you here in Syria. I want to make this thing work. How can we help work together to make this thing work? But if it's just a thing where it's just like, yo, I'm sending people, and look, I'm going to tell it to you like this. I'm telling you, this is going to get me in trouble. For years, the cardinal sin that you could commit in the rebel-controlled free territories is working with the Tahaluf. There are brothers who were sent and to prison, tortured and put to death. One of them is Hamza Malazi, and there were others because they were accused of working with the Tahalif. And now, without any explanation, all of a sudden, bang, we with the Tahalif. And we're supposed to be like, okay with that? That's cool. I mean, I'm with that movement because you with it, I'm with it too. No way. No way. And the Islamic texts do not support it. And if the Islamic texts don't support it, I ain't supporting it. And if somebody wants to explain it, I'm ready to listen. But the hard part about it is that ain't nobody explaining nothing. We just supposed to accept it. And I don't think that that's right. Next, wallahi, Brother Bilal, it's extremely hard to accept the American presence, but truly we are forced to put our hands in theirs in order to first to secure full control of Syria. Okay, listen up. Let me give it to you straight, brother. If I didn't love you, I wouldn't tell you. Some people have said, and this was something that was sent to me a couple of days ago. They said that they are something similar to what you said, where it's basically that we have to deal and accept the Americans because the country was destroyed by Zionists and such like that. Okay, how exactly is that American presence, who's always been a destructive presence, how joining them all of a sudden somehow like benefits us? This is not clear. I mean, this, to be honest, this makes no sense to me. All that's happening is that you're legitimizing the American presence. Whereas before, if you see an American Humvee going down the street or something like that, then it would be a totally different situation. But now it's legitimized. I don't see how that advances the cause of the Syrian people. Now, people are going to sit there and say, hey, wait a minute, look, we don't want war with Israel. We don't want war with America. Well, who said anything about war with Israel? Who said anything about war with America? The Taliban are still under U.S. sanctions, but they are a functioning and a thriving country. I mean, people are making it out like either you can have a country with America or you could not have a country. To be honest, me, myself, I'm going to tell you that the Syrian people will never prosper with America calling many of the shots. I'm not saying that Ahmed al-Shara is a puppet. I'm not saying that. But what I am saying is that America's running the show. Now, as long as that's the case, do you really believe that America wants to see a strong economic, military, and cohesive society here in Syria on Israel's borders? Absolutely, positively so. So if everybody understands that dynamic, why are we saying, well, we need to be with America so that we can stabilize our country? They're not going to let you stabilize it. The Syrian lira was trading at 11,200 Syrian pounds to the dollar on May 13th of this year when Trump announced the lifting of sanctions. Today, or just some days ago, a few days ago, it was 11,900. You understand what I'm saying, where I'm coming from? If we have to look at the situation from an investment standpoint, because people are going to say, oh, come on, Bilal, look, they didn't, the investments, they want to make investments and such like that, so the sanctions have to come up and such like that. All right, bet. We haven't seen it yet. Now, it's saying that the sanctions are going to be lifted, and that's going to pave the way for investors to invest here in Syria, and so on and so forth. I'm a type of cat that you got to show me. I'm not going to sit here and just try to visualize it. I need to see it. This is the first thing. The second thing is that it's crystal clear that America is the broker for Israel. Everybody knows that. This is not a secret. By Inviting them in, you're inviting Israel in. When you invite America in, you're inviting the CIA and the Mossad. You may not invite the Mossad in, but the CIA takes everything that they get and they give it directly to them. And everybody knows this. And Allah knows best. Allah knows best. Okay. Next. I think the claim was that he was part of the Syrian forces and had extreme takfir ideology. Okay, the first thing, all right, let's talk about this for a brief second. All right, that he was a part of the Syrian forces. Yes, he was a part of the Syrian forces. This is confirmed. And had extremist takfiri ideology. Okay, first of all, if they're saying that, where's the proof of that? First thing. The second thing is the people who I spoke to who know him, he wasn't that type of guy. He wasn't one of those types of, that he was a very jovial, comical person that didn't fit that profile. Now, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that he wasn't, but why should I believe that he was? Why? Because America said it? Nah. I'm not believing it because America said it. If America brings proof, I believe it. But that's the way this thing is supposed to be. So this thing about he had takfiri ideology. And also, then we're going to have to talk about what's takfiri ideology now. Look, whether you believe it or you don't believe it, where you think it's real or you don't think it's real, there are people who believe that because Ahmed al-Shara joined the Tahaluf, that he has left Islam. That's what some people believe. They have their proofs from the Quran and Sunnah. Is that the reality or is that not the case? That's something that's open to debate. But can we really sit here now and say, okay, well, those people who believe that, they have no basis. There's no basis for that. No, you might say, I don't share your opinion, but to say that there's no basis for it, that it's totally groundless, that's not grounded in reality. So somebody who subscribes to that methodology or that ideology, are they a takfiri now? Who did he make takfir on? And why? You see, brothers and sisters, we were hoodwinked for many years that as soon as you attach a label, takfiri, onto somebody, right away, you wash your hands of them and you walk away. But you don't know who he made takfir on. You don't know why he made takfir. And we have to also understand one thing. See, I grew up a Christian. As a Christian, as I was growing up, if you believed in the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, and that the three equal one God, if you believed that, you could do anything you wanted. Didn't make a difference. You could go to the masjid and hang out there and say all kinds of things, and nobody would question your Christian faith. Islam isn't like that. Islam is not like that. That's not what Islam is. There are some things which you can do, which you shouldn't do, that can nullify your Islam. It's not nice, it's not pretty, but it's a real thing in Islam that sometimes people do things that they shouldn't be doing that puts them out of Islam. And that's something for the ulama, for the scholars to decide, not a journalist, not a student of knowledge, the scholars. And even then, they have to bring their proofs as to why they may say so-and-so is outside of Islam. So if he was a takfiri, I would want to know, who did he make takfir on? Why did he make takfir on them? What were the proofs that he used to make takfir on them? And in addition to that, who does he influence? If you'll take somebody who walks around and all, and he looks over to the right and he says, that one is a kafir. And he looks to the left and he says the same thing about this one and that one. Okay, should we put him in prison? Who does he influence? Who are his troops? None. You might say, hey, this guy needs dawah, or you may need to discuss things with him or whatever. But all of a sudden now, because somebody has feelings that this one was a person of takfir and in a blameworthy fashion, then now we need to jail him? Okay, who's he affecting? He's not affecting anybody. You have people here in Syria who are Christians. They don't believe in Allah. They don't believe in the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Should they be jailed? Absolutely not. Why? What's their crime? And that's what we have to discuss, brothers and sisters, and Allah knows best. Okay. Okay. Where's the Mujahideen? Same ones who claimed to have started their careers fighting the American presence in Iraq. I don't know where they are. I don't know. For sure, we're missing voices here. We're missing voices, and once again, not voices that are saying, "Okay, we want to bring down the government." See, everybody's got to understand something. Look, this is an important point. I may be critical of the government, but that doesn't necessarily mean I want to bring them down. Why would I want to bring down the government? How do the Syrian people benefit from not having a government? But what people are trying to do is trying to do the same thing that they did years ago. They said, "Are you with the Americans or are you with Saddam?" As if you can only be, if you criticize Saddam Hussein, then you must be with the Americans and you want to bring a harm to the Iraqi people. And if you're with the Americans, so it was the thing where it was only either this or was that. I mean, what are we, kids? What I look like? I got a pacifier in my mouth? I need my mother's milk? That's not the way it works. We are people of the Quran and Sunnah. We are not people of personalities. I am not a person of the personality of Mohammed bin Salman, Nahyan, Sisi, Shara, or anybody else. We are loyal to the Quran and Sunnah, and we will be loyal to leaders as long as they're loyal to the Quran and Sunnah. That's what it's supposed to be about. That's where the real strength from Muslim society comes from. Not by making allegiances with people who are open enemies to you. Now, I know a lot of the Syrian people, they're thinking that they're going to get some economic goodies from America, they're going to get protection from America, but America is the enemy that's been destroying the Muslims. You can't be in lockstep with Benjamin Netanyahu and then you look and then you say, well, you know what? We might get some benefit out of that. That's like seeing Abu Jahl, if they were in the same time period, Abu Jahl and Firaun, they're hanging out and they're cool. And of course, that would be Netanyahu and Trump. But then some people would say, hey, you know what? Maybe that Abu Jahl, if we invite him to our village, even though we're Muslims, we can invite him to our village, maybe he'll help us out. That makes no sense. Bilal, Trump said he defeated ISIS in 2018, yet Syria joined the international coalition 6 years later in 2025. That's an embarrassment and a humiliation ritual. I'm going to go back and I'm going to tell you again. This ISIS presence that we're hearing about, I don't see it. The Syrian people don't see it. Even the people in Deir ez-Zor, which is closest to those desert areas, they don't see it. So, it's like, all right, so where are these people? Where are they? I believe, and Allah knows best, is that they're using that as a legitimacy card to give them legitimacy to be here. And even if they were here, since they don't have such a big military presence and such like that, why do we need the Americans? If it was really like that, the Americans could say, okay, check this out, Ahmed Shara. You got to fight them people, right? All right, we're going to help you out. We're going to give you some weapons. We're going to give you some of this, and we're going to give you some of that so that you can take on these people and you can get rid of them for us. You don't need to be here for that unless you're here for something else. All right, let's take one more. right, let's see. Okay, let's see. Okay, last question. Bilal, why don't Syrians care about the American occupation when one of their military convoys literally had a Kafir tattoo inscribed on it and a cross on it, like their secretary? There are not, all right, you have the Syrians who lived under Bashar, and you have the Syrians from the northern part of the country. The Syrians who lived under Bashar, um, a good portion of them didn't fight. And they were still under the rule of Bashar al-Assad when fighters from the north swept down into the south. Um, those people are basically looking for anything that's better than Bashar, which is not hard to do. He was the absolute worst. So if you have him worse on the 0 to 10 scale, meaning 10 meaning the absolute worst, 0 meaning he was great, we would put Bashar at maybe 9.9, 9.8. So if you get somebody that's an 8.0, then you say, okay, bet, well, let's work with it. People from the north were of a little bit of a different caliber. They suffered a lot, and they were expecting a lot more than the people in the south. So they're less happy. But now a lot of the people from the north have gone back to their hometowns and their villages and such like that and everything. And so there isn't a concentrated area of rebel controlled territory and non-rebel controlled territory. So it's mixed. I think another thing that's there is that people are really feeling like we either have to have what we have now with Ahmed al-Shara, or we're going to destabilize the country for the Druze and the SDF, when this is not the case. You can support Ahmed al-Shara, but how do you support him? The Prophet ﷺ told us how. He said, you support your brother whether he's the oppressor or he's the oppressed. If he is the oppressed, then the companions understood how to support him. If he was the oppressor, then how do you support him? The Prophet ﷺ made mention that you support him by holding his hands. If Ahmed al-Shara is doing something that isn't good, he's a human being. Maybe he'll make mistakes, just like anybody else. But there also has to be people who have to step up, and they've got to say, listen, Ahmed, this ain't no good. This ain't gonna work. Here, in stating that they're not with this particular movement or that particular movement. And those voices have to be heard. That doesn't mean that all of a sudden now you don't want Ahmed Shara to be the president. Doesn't mean that you want Madhum Abdi from the SDF to be the president. It doesn't mean that you want Hikmat Hajri from the Druze community that are supported by Israel to be the president. Doesn't mean any of that. But what it can mean is that, okay, you're going to be the president, fine. But we want to question you about certain things. That's how a strong country, a strong community operates. And Allah knows best. All right, brothers and sisters, we're going to wrap this thing up. I am your host, Bilal Abdul Kareem. Jazakum Allahu khaira. Please do share this video with others so that they can benefit. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.